Friday, April 21st, 2023, in beautiful Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And we have made it to the promised land. This has been an absolutely mind-blowing city so far. But it's been a while since our last update, so we got to back up from our last podcast. And the most memorable thing towards the tail end of Indonesia, when we were still in Bali, was, well, Shamar was in the bathroom, and I was on the bed reading, and
I was washing laundry in the shower.
Yeah, she was dutifully scrubbing socks or something, and I was reading, what was it? I was reading James Joyce.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just starting to get into that. And Ulysses had to wait as my bed started to move a little. And my first thought was, is there some kind of malfunctioning mechanism underneath my bed? Like this is one of those sleazy coin-operating vibrating beds?
Well, in my thought, because I was in the shower doing laundry, and so I thought maybe I was using too much hot water, and the maintenance people were coming to like get after me, because I heard this really loud sound, which sounded like somebody banging on the door. Like I was, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? They discovered that I'm doing laundry in the shower.
Yeah. So I got up, and I was like, wait a minute. After about a second and a half, I'm like, this is not a coin-operated, vibrating sleaze bed. This seems to be a tremor of some sort. So I got up, and the floor felt fine. I didn't feel anything.
But you kept hearing noise.
I paced around, and I laid back down, and it got worse and worse. And I thought, oh, earthquake. Let's put on our shoes and really quickly rush over to that, to the arch between the bathroom and the bedroom. And I was like, Shamar, earthquake, up.
You said earthquake, and the minute you said that, it just clicked in my head like, oh my God, that's exactly what's happening. And I freaked out. And Keith was really calm, and he was like, okay, go to this, doorway and let's stand in it. And he seemed super calm, and I was just like, my heart was beating so fast, and pure fear, pure terror.
So I was like, the most important thing is don't let anything hit your head, and don't panic. And okay, I amend what I said earlier. I had not put my shoes on yet. Although I have reoccurring dreams that an emergency happens and I can't find my shoes. It's like not being able to do your homework or something in a school dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely thinking about that. Like, my shoes. Okay, so I summoned Shamar to go to the archway between the bathroom and the bedroom, and we rode it out for like a minute.
It wasn't that long, but it was enough time for the reel to play through my mind, and my mind was basically saying like, oh my God, this is it, like the building's gonna collapse, like this is all going through my head, and at the same time I'm thinking like, of course, like I'm naked because I'm in the shower. Like anybody would care if it was an emergency situation. So I don't know, after
the worst thing that can happen is you run out naked screaming and everyone's like, dude, we get this all the time, you're a crazy naked person.
Because I think it's pretty normal for Bali to have like these little earthquakes where it's like, it's really not a big deal. It's just a little tremor. But since that was my first earthquake, it freaked me out, and I just thought we were going to die. And it really scared me.
Shamar's from Texas.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, Florida. And I'm from the Seattle area. And we get little tremors from time to time. And we're waiting for the big one. So we're all thoroughly indoctrinated with emergency procedures.
They're super foreign to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, maybe within a minute or so, the tremor, it probably was even less time than that, the tremor died down. And then my thought was like, where's my dress? And so I put in my dress as fast as I could. And
we waited for a sec, and the tremor stopped, and we're like, okay, let's go outside and make sure that...
Well, we ran downstairs.
You ran.
I ran. I was like, I'm getting out of here.
No, I don't. I'm not into running ever, but... We went downstairs, down the emergency stairwell, and stood outside because all seemed calm, and we wanted to assess the damage and make sure that everything's cool. But it stopped, and the people at the front desk were just kind of like
Going
just
about
smiling and nodding, like hello, goodbye, ha.
like not even acknowledging that anything happened.
Yeah.
But there were about
We were on
maybe
the fifth floor,
on the fifth
so
floor.
maybe on the base of the building they didn't feel it as
I
much
don't
because we
know.
were swaying.
We were swaying. Yeah. And I think there were about maybe 2 other people who were foreigners and they had felt something. So they also came downstairs and we were all kind of looking at each other like, did you feel that? And, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You okay? Yeah.
On our
I'm
way
okay.
back up, they were kind of muttering about that, like, yeah, I thought it was someone banging
Hitting
on
the door. Yeah.
and I was in the shower or whatever, and kind of exchanged a few words, but that was the end of it. And
Everybody went back about their business and that was that. It was like no big deal.
yeah, pretty cool, man.
However,
I know, but in my mind, I got to say, first I thought it was a sleazy coin-operated bed malfunction.
and then
Then I thought, like, well, I could, maybe this is the big one. And quickly I was like, no, come on. The likelihood of it being anything significant is pretty low. And then I thought, I got an earthquake in Indonesia, dude. Bucket list checked off.
For your story.
I actually got to experience.
that is true. I mean, the fact that I'm here, it's
yeah.
kind of a fun memory because I know that I'm okay.
Oh yeah, they've had catastrophic volcanoes here that caused the year without a summer in the early 1800s.
Yeah.
And changed weather patterns. And we hear stories about volcanoes rupturing the eardrums of everyone within several miles.
Yeah, so I gotta say, being in Bali, I honestly, like in the back of my head, I was a little scared of tsunamis and volcanoes and earthquakes. And then before we left, we did have a small experience. So
God, that was awesome. It's a volcanic island chain, man.
I know.
You just
And
gotta let
it's in
nature.
the ring of fire. So what do you expect?
I think it's the Bali island spirit giving us a little nod,
I
being like,
guess.
remember who's in charge here, Buster.
Well, I know, but it made me think like, well, no wonder everybody's putting these ritual offerings out every day at multiple times because basically you are living with these volcanoes, basically volcano gods, So
Yeah, after that I was like, okay, that's everything I wanted out of Bali except for surfing. And I really wanted to do that, but oh man,
one more day.
we had
full
one more
day.
day, and we're like, we got if we come back here, because our 2-month visa was expiring. If we come back, we got to scout out some of the places in the south that are more touristy, and that's why we didn't go there. But I need to know just how bad it was. So we went down south to Uluwatu the next day after the earthquake and scouted out some surfing spots and went to like cliff restaurants with lots of infinity pools and bikini people and
Instagram shot kind of
Instagram
place.
shots and like beautiful sunsets and all that. So that's nice. But on the way back, we got a taxi home after dark. And the traffic was what, 2 hours?
Yeah, it took a long time.
And that at that point, because we had been in the outer islands where they don't have traffic, they had horses, and in the last island, what was it?
Limbogan. I think.
Limbogan, yeah. They have cars, but they don't have the traffic that the main island has. And I was like, the traffic kind of ruins it, man.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta say, like, I love the Balinese people, and the culture,
natural beauty
the
is
natural
gorgeous.
beauty, and the temples, the built beauty, is absolutely amazing. There's art everywhere, but the fact that it's not really built for pedestrians, and that there's
It's not very walkable at all.
and that if there are sidewalks, they're so narrow, and there are, for some reason, the scooters there are so loud, and the cars are so loud. I think about going back there. I'm just like, dude, I don't want to listen to scooters constantly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love the place, I love the people, but the idea of going on vacation to listen to like 3 feet away, like that doesn't, in my mind, it's a deterrent.
Yeah, that
It
is a big deterrent. It is. It's a good place to go for a small vacation and you get tucked away into your little villa or your little area that's off the road. Okay, and then you're looking at the ocean and, chilling in the restaurants, that's fine. But yeah, living there,
I think
I don't know.
there's a part of everyone's psychology that wants to just kind of take a little walk when they don't have anything to do. I mean, you can't just hide in your complex.
Yeah.
The idea of wandering through a marketplace or something like that is one of the best parts of being on vacation. And you can't really do that in Bali. So love the place, love the culture, love the art, love the beauty.
Yeah. And maybe there's parts we just haven't explored, but the places we went, we didn't really find it.
Yeah, and we went specifically to the outer islands where there are no cars.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have cars, but you had, I don't know, I guess a lot of
so touristy.
a lot of hustlers just
Yeah.
constantly pushing drugs, and which they got to do what they got to do. But I just kind of don't like being pressured all the time. So it's very clear that in Bali there are two types of people. There are the natives who sell, and the tourists, the Western tourists mostly, who buy. And it's a dynamic that gets a little tiresome, I guess. I mean, like if you're there to surf or do something or sightsee, it's cool, but the place really has been overrun,
I'd say so.
Yeah, so yeah, I would go back. I would,
too.
but I gotta say, like the traffic thing and the whole tourists weird dynamic of like there being two classes of people. And I'll take my time. I'll go back, but not now.
Yeah.
Now, we're in a brand new country.
Completely different.
And oh my God, I am loving it. I'm so glad I put my foot down and was like, we're going here. Malaysia.
I was like, I want to go to Thailand.
See,
And
she's drawn to beaches and such.
He was like, no, Malaysia. I was like, okay, fine.
Absolutely amazing. So we took, what was it, 3 hours. It's a 3-hour plane ride.
Yeah, super easy.
From the Bali, the Denpasar airport.
Yeah.
And to Kuala Lumpur. Then we took a nice little train ride from the airport to downtown and got ripped off by a taxi driver, but we kind of rolled our eyes and we're like, whatever, dude. They're supposed to use their meter, but the guys like gave us a flat price, which was like double.
By ripped off, okay, charge us a few more dollars.
But it's like, come on, dude. I'm just like, whatever. Here's your filthy money. Just get me to where I need to go. And he was a nice guy. He was cool. I took a picture of all the stickers in his car that say, is he using his meter? If not, call this number immediately. And I took a picture of his face and his name and stuff on the sticker.
Yeah, I think many of them don't use the meter. And we've even asked before, could you use the meter? And they're like, no, they just want to pick up somebody else.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they'd rather
Just
have unreported income.
which totally makes sense.
Yeah.
They make way more.
But anyway, we saw the pollution rolling in. And Shamar, what was your impression?
Coming in on the airplane, oh my gosh, we went from blue, beautiful, pristine skies in Bali, and even flying most of the flight, it was blue. But then coming close to Kuala Lumpur, I just started noticing this like smoky haze, and my stomach just kind of dropped because coming out of Korea, like, oh my God, I just don't like pollution. I mean, who does? Yeah. And I just was like, oh, what are we doing? Why are we going back to this? No, like it looks horrible. What is happening? From this Bali paradise to pollution. So right off the bat, and then we landed and it just kind of looked dirty and old. And I had a very bad first impression. I was just like, man, if this doesn't work out, we're getting out of here quickly. Yeah. However, let's continue the story.
Let me just say a note on pollution. In Korea, a little more than half of their pollution supposedly comes from China, like their coal power plants that they recklessly build to meet certain economic growth targets, and that means that they only use them half of the time. But anyway, there's enough of them and other industrial facilities that smoke blows over into Korea, and Korea has a lot of air pollution that's homegrown too. I mean, when we were taking off from the peninsula in Korea earlier, you could see big, nasty smokestacks of the industrial facility, and we were pointing down, and Shamar was like, never again.
Never again.
Never again. I was like, yeah. Yeah, I've had my fill. But here, it's, there's some from traffic, there's some from industry, I'm sure. but it's mostly from their palm oil plantations. So their biggest export here is integrated circuits. So they have a pretty good manufacturing export base, but their second biggest export way down, like it's not even hardly even number two. It's palm oil plantations, and palm oil, to make it, you have to burn down jungle and then drain the peat land underneath it, and often burn it too. And then they replace it with these monocrop palm plantations. It's all the same plant with big palm, and you can see it flying in. There's all these rows of like palm oil plantations, and I pointed it out to Shamar, and she noticed. Mm-hmm. And this palm oil, it's in everything from cosmetics to food, to soap, to detergent, to everything. And they're trying to come up with they just invented, or rather pioneered, a way to make the same fatty acids that are in palm oil that make it useful. They just came up with a way to make it with yeast in big vats, and they're starting to contract with cosmetic companies to come up with this non-destructive way of doing palm oil. But that was like just a couple months ago where I started reading about this. So hopefully this will displace this nasty jungle-destroying export crop called palm oil. And you fly in, you see the palm oil, and you see all the nasty haze, which has kind of a light tan kind of color. So people are constantly burning this stuff. And we flew in. Shamar was discouraged, and
well, it reminded me a little bit of some of the bad aspects of Korea. So basically, the pollution and some like buildings with big numbers on them, like very concrete block looking. But that was just the very introduction.
Yeah, our
coming in on the train.
On the train, there's pollution and palm oil plantations and these big tenement-style buildings with serial numbers on them. Mm-hmm. So. Shamar was a little skeptical at first, and I kept being like, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it.
Yeah, and I wrote my mom this email, which is the very much like, an email's like, oh, hey, we're here, this is where we're staying, and like, what the heck does it, I don't see what this place has going for it. Like, I don't have a good first impression, but I'll keep an open mind. So.
Well, next day, we're like, okay, let's do the tourist thing right off the bat. There's the Bantu Caves, which are just outside of town. And there's these massive limestone cavernous caves. They're huge. And about 140 years ago, local Indian dude turned it into a shrine for a Hindu god. Let's see if I can find the name. The name is, Lord Murugan. Lord Murugan is widely known as the god of the Tamils, so he's the main deity of the Tamil people. And the Indian population of Malaysia, very quickly, there's the native Malay population who are overwhelmingly Muslim. There's the Chinese population who are like 23% of the population. And then there's about 9 to 10% of the population who are Indian, who are overwhelmingly Tamil. They speak Tamil, which is a Dravidian language from the south of India. And the Tamil people, the main historic deity that they celebrate is Lord Murugan. And this guy built a big Hindu temple there. So the big ancient temple isn't really ancient at all. It's like 130 years?
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
It's built in the 1890s, I think. And every February, there's a Tamil festival called Thaipusam, where people will walk barefoot for miles to go up these steep. Originally, they were wooden steps. Now they're concrete, and they're all painted rainbow colors to go up the hill into the mouth of this big temple. And during the festival, people will have hooks in their back with weights on them and have metal rods going through the skin of their forehead. and a lot of suffering, and a lot of people repenting for their various sins and stuff. But when we got there, there was a slight drizzle. There were pigeons on the base of the stairs, and monkeys all up and down the stairs. And there was like Hindu temple down at the bottom, and there was someone playing some instrument, and it sounded identical to a saxophone. And I don't know if it was a different instrument or just, and it sounded like a sax, or it was a sax, but it sounded like a very neo-noir 1980s saxophone with all this drizzle and these monkeys and all these shrines and stuff. It was very cool. So I also learned that during World War II, when the communist underground was trying to resist the Japanese, they had this big meeting in those caves at the shrine in secret, but they were betrayed by their double agent boss, who was a Japanese agent. First, he was a British agent who infiltrated the communists and had the local police, the colonial police, knock off all the people above him so that he could rise to power. And then when the Japanese took over, he's like, look, I've been working for the British, so I'm a scumbag. You can trust me. And so he had all the communist leadership go to these caves, and he claimed he had a flat tire, or his car broke down on the way to the meeting in 1942. And all the communist senior leadership went to these caves, and the Japanese knew about it because he was telling them. And there's a giant Japanese anti-communist massacre there. Around 100 people were all wiped out. So there's this war god, and standing over this cave, there's a giant statue, and a bunch of dead communists. And this weird festival every year where people put hooks through their skin. They climb into the mouth of this place. And as soon as we left this place, after snapping some pictures and looking at the shrines inside, and there was a rooster.
Yeah, there were roosters inside the cave.
Who owns this rooster?
No, but there was more than one.
A few
Like,
roosters.
how did they get over
They were all
there?
like, "Rah, rah, rah." They were crowing inside them. Like, okay.
Like up
The sun
like
is not up.
hundreds
This
of
is the-
stairs.
it's
They're
like
like up in the cave. How
The
did they get
late
up there?
afternoon. Why are you crowing? Rah.
Yeah.
The monkeys didn't go inside, though. They just stayed on the stairs.
No, but you had to be careful with those monkeys. They were kind of fierce.
Yeah, we were reading reports of them jumping on people's backs and biting them.
Yeah,
and
so I
stuff.
was a little scared of those monkeys.
We went to the Ubud monkey forest in Bali, and we read about how not to mess with the monkeys.
Yeah, don't look them in the eyes.
Don't look them in the eye, and don't like have any food in your pocket.
And don't have plastic bags hanging out because they think food is in plastic bags.
Yeah, all that. Don't look like you're hiding stuff. So I just charged up, so did Shamar. And anyway, the moment we came out of this place, just lightning. Skies got dark. The rain quickened.
Started pouring.
Pouring, lightning, thunder, just directly above us. So it flashed, and you could see lightning bolts. And less than a second later,
It was insane.
it's like, okay, those are the ghosts of dead communists.
It's freaky.
Thousands of Tamil devotees with hooks in their back, and this old god.
Yeah, it sure felt eerie like that.
Yeah, we should have offered some incense or something,
Yeah.
but we didn't. Anyway, so that was
No, instead we had to run through the rain because we had no umbrellas. We had to run through puddles that were like up to our ankles to try to catch a cab.
Yeah, and the phones were running out of juice, and we had
Yeah.
bad time. We had one phone my phone stopped working.
I think
'cause it
my
was
phone
so-
had like 1%. We were trying to get this cab before it ran out.
Yeah, on her phone. And this isn't just any sort of rain. This is the kind of rain where it's like you walk into it and you're soaked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if an umbrella would do a whole bunch. Like, maybe a little bit for
A little bit.
for a
But
while.
my feet were
but
soaked.
It's like walking into a wall of water.
Yeah, so when we got in the cab, we were drenched. It was kind of funny.
We had to jump between covered areas, like run between them. So like 10 seconds of running, 20 seconds, totally soaked to the covered area. And then to the next one, then to the next one. And they let us in, and we made it home. And wow, that was a pretty magical.
That was our
that-
entry
that was-
to Kuala Lumpur. That was
Yeah.
that cave.
That mystic massacre cave.
Yeah.
So since then, it's been, I think, the best way to describe Kuala Lumpur is gastronomic
Oh,
nexus.
oh
Like
yeah.
you cannot experience this town without like exploring all the food. Like I said before, the three main ethnic groups, Malay, who are Muslim, and like tropical, so there's a lot of like fish and stuff, and the Chinese, who come from southern China. So there's a lot of southern Chinese delicacies, and the Indian, who come from the Tamil areas of southeast India. So that type of food.
Yeah, the food is so good that I was like, you know what? There's pollution, but I don't really care because this food is so next level amazing.
And beautiful old buildings. Like
Yeah,
the
old
amount they look
buildings.
colonial. I think some of them aren't, but they just mimic colonial. But they're old enough with like the cracked plaster and all the molding.
Yeah.
And
And what I love about these restaurants, so there's the places that are like the markets where obviously everybody goes and there's so many food options, but then also just along the streets, you'll run into a random Indian restaurant or, a Chinese restaurant. And if you go into them, they're not full of tourists, they're just full of the locals. So today, across from our hotel, we went to have Indian food right across the street. And it was all Indian people in there, and the food was phenomenal. I think it maybe cost like $12 for all of this food. The best spices, like some of the best Indian food I've ever
oh
had.
my God. And what's interesting is this city, I looked up the demographics. It's like there's no one majority ethnic group in the city. It's like 40-ish percent Malay, 40-ish percent Chinese, 10% ish Indian, and the rest like foreigners. And and I don't ever get the same sense of us versus them, or like we're the majority, or this is our territory, that I got in Korea, which was just constantly kind of this
Well,
collective mentality, everyone kind of looking over their shoulder like, oh God, here comes
I
the
always
big.
felt like an outsider in Korea because we didn't speak the language and we look completely different. But Kuala Lumpur, like there's so many ethnicities and so many languages and everybody's speaking English. So you just feel like you're part of the mix. You don't really feel like you stick out.
In Korea, it's like you had to almost apologize for being a foreigner.
Yeah,
Like
sometimes you would walk into places and you'd kind of get this look like, what are you doing here?
scowls,
Yeah.
like get out of here. And but here we've gotten nothing but warmth and
People have been
invitation.
so
People
friendly.
have gotten a kick out of the fact that we're just going to their restaurant. They're like, oh, cool, yeah, yeah, come on. And they're not trying to like shake us down
No, they're so friendly.
like in Bali. I gotta say, Bali, they're nice, but you could tell there's the whole tourist local dynamic where they're like, okay, you're someone I can get money
I'll
from.
charge you 5 times what I would charge somebody else for laundry, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but here it's just like, okay, you're a new customer, you
Yeah.
know. And I just
It's
say,
so refreshing because it's like you're just one of the
God,
mix.
God, the diversity is the best thing about this place. Not just the food, but just like the colorfulness of the different types of buildings. There's Taoist shrines and like Buddhist temples and Hindu temples
But then there's
and big
also,
giant mosques,
uh-huh.
and there's hundreds of festivals throughout the years from the different religions, and
And
like
you've got this juxtaposition of old and new. So along with this, you have these tall, shiny skyscrapers and these crystal clean, like 8, 9 story malls with all these brand name designer shops and like squeaky clean floors. And then people that are wandering through all the streets and the malls and these walkways connecting it all, they're all different. Like some of the women or a lot of the women are wearing the headscarves. There's women that are completely covered head to toe in the black, I don't know what it's called, the black, like the head covering and then the like dress they wear, it's all black. And then you've got like Chinese men and Indian, like all
like
kinds.
general rule is that Indian men, generally you see more men walking around.
Yeah, that
and
is
and the
true.
Malays, you see men, and a lot of times by themselves, but you also see lots of women with their head covering walking around too. But honestly, the groups of like young people that are mixed men and women, those tend to be Chinese, And they
And maybe more in the central area where it's more
probably,
like modern with the
I haven't
malls.
mapped out the whole
Yeah.
place yet, but we've been mostly downtown, which is near Little India, the Brickfields area,
And Chinatown.
and Chinatown. And that's Pedaling
Yeah,
Street
I
is the
think
main
so.
street, yeah. So the Chinese tend to be the ones who wear like shorts and expose their shoulders and like more Western style, like show more skin. Whereas Muslims cover up a little bit more, especially the women.
Yeah, and backtracking real quick, when we first landed in the airport, I mean, I could feel the difference right away because our plane was coming from Bali, so a lot of people were still wearing shorts and kind of dressed for, beach weather. And then we got here,
Including me.
yeah. And so I think I was wearing, thank goodness I had a shirt that actually had sleeves on it. So my shoulders were covered, but I was wearing shorts. And so when we got off the airplane, I immediately felt uncomfortable because when we entered the airport, everybody was covered up. It looked like they were dressed for winter, and it is hot here, but like their arms were covered, their legs were covered. A lot of the men were wearing jeans or like slacks and long sleeves. The women's heads were covered, their arms were covered. This is the majority, not everybody, because there were still Westerners and there were people coming off the plane that had shorts on like me, but I felt uncomfortable. So when we got back to the hotel, I immediately got my most conservative dress, and I've been wearing that the whole time we've been here.
Yeah.
So
Immediately when we got into the airport, when we hopped on that first like horizontal escalator thing,
yeah.
there's a row of like 15 old timers, like local Malay old timers who had the skull cap and like the
Yeah.
big beard and the traditional Muslim dress.
Well, and then there were some guys from India who had like the turban on and
Yeah,
everything.
there were a few Sikhs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And loved it. I'm like, wow, this is such a colorful place. I adore it. But I was like, okay, I get the feeling that only Westerners and occasionally Chinese men wear shorts. So not that I need to wear jeans, but I just somehow felt like, I just feel like I'd somehow blend in a little bit more,
Yeah.
like wearing my jeans, like it'd be more universally appreciated. But it's weird. I haven't seen any examples of anyone being offended by anyone else. You see people like wearing the head covering, the hair covering, and like the traditional Muslim dress, walking down the street. There was one woman yesterday, and she was walking. No, I was in the mall, wearing traditional head to toe Muslim stuff, and walking what looked like with her sister, who was Malay, and she was wearing like a tank top with jeans, and one of her pant legs had a deliberate tear from like her thigh all the way down to her ankle, showing her like bare leg, and they were just walking, chatting, like
Yeah.
having like giggly girl talk in the mall. And I was like, yeah, dude, this is so tolerant.
Well, yeah, and then in the mall there were other people. I don't know. There was one woman. She looked like a walking Barbie doll. Like I don't know if she was Russian or what, but she barely had any clothes on. She had like, the fake boobs and like this really tight shirt and like these tiny little shorts. Definitely stood out. But hey, she was there just with everybody else.
And the way people mingle at restaurants, like people wearing the Muslim stuff, sitting down, having food next to, Chinese people wearing a lot less, and not a ton of Westerners, really.
No.
Like not really. This is not.
There
a
are
big-
Westerners,
there
but it's
are-
not like it's overtaken by these foreigners, like or Westerners.
Like
Yeah.
the restaurants and the bars here, they cater to locals.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be catering to like Westerners, and that's so refreshing. I'm like, oh, this is a city that's for the people of
Who
the
live
city,
here.
and not to cater to people who are on a vacation or something. But oh man, so we did wonderful vegetarian Indian buffet. We did the street food
Oh yeah, we did some
stalls, food
stalls.
stalls.
We had some Thai food actually.
sitting on plastic buckets.
Yeah.
God, I wanted to get the.
We had some freshly made pomegranate juice. That was delicious.
Yeah, I wanted to try the fried stingray and the bamboo snails, but
Next time.
next time.
Yeah.
And
We even
We
had
had-
some Japanese ramen soup, the way they made it in Japan. It was like the real deal, super delicious.
we had dim sum. We've had a lot of Indian food.
It's just been a few days, and it has just been an extravaganza. It's been so delightful.
And I gotta say, these Chinese bars are like the best bars, the classiest places that I've ever been to.
Speakeasy kind of
Like
vibe.
they're all speakeasy, and none of them advertise. Like the front door, you don't know it's there. It can wait. We went to one place where it's just a door and a wall, like underneath an escalator. It looks like some kind of utility
Looks like a
closet or
closet.
something.
Yeah.
There's a single like security camera above it, but no sign or anything. With
There's
like
no sign.
a black crappy door, with maybe a few like little dents
bell.
in it, and like a little bell. And we were kind of eventually we went in, and whoa, dude, just like the ceiling is black, but all the lights are muted, like kind of an orange color with bird cages around them, like 50 of them, with glowing Chinese neon lights. And we went to a few of those. One had a sliding door that looked like it was a wall of what?
With like a wooden like carved that one.
Yeah, the crane.
Like a crane. Oh yeah, there was like this beautiful red door that was like carved with these intricate patterns, and you had
It looked
to
like a wall of drawers.
Yeah, it looked like a wall. You didn't really know it was a door. That's the thing. And then the lady pushed it back. I was like, oh, it's a secret doorway.
Yeah, and there's no sign at all.
And then did you say the other one that it was like the frontage of it looked like a toy shop?
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, they actually have like a little toy shop with all these old crappy toys with like a desk with a cash register.
You would have no idea that it's a bar
And-
unless you found out about it online or somebody told you about it.
And there's a secret door. So like these speakeasy type places that look completely different on the inside than they do on the outside. Dark and speakeasy-ish.
Well, and it adds to the experience. Like you go, it's
feels
like hidden
secret
away,
and
and then
cool,
it's secret
dude.
and cool. And you go
Oh,
in
man.
there, and then just like great music, great vibe, cool decor.
Any
One of the
child
places,
will tell you secret passageways
I know.
are cool as shit, dude.
It makes
God,
it
we should do that
so
more
much
often
more
in the
fun.
West.
Yeah, one of the places had this like tall ceilings, and then the whole wall was covered in these old-fashioned television sets that were like lining the whole
from,
wall
like,
to the
the 80s.
cieling. Yeah, just really unique decorations.
Pretty much all the restaurants, bars, and shops we've been to here have like really high ceilings. There's like this old colonial technique of building rooms where like they're used to having ceiling fans. And the old crumbling buildings on the outside with like the plaster falling off and everything, there's cracks, and they've got these ferns growing out of the cracks with like jungle vines and such. Oh man, I love it when a building ages and it gets more cool looking.
Yeah, these do.
It's so much better than those steel and glass monstrosities that everyone's so happy about. But those don't age gracefully. But
They don't.
But these
Just not the
are
same.
just wonderful, man. But the street food, amazing. No, and the tea houses, yeah. I was like, we got to get some tea. And I've been a big fan of tea for a long time. And we hunted down a couple places. And we spent, the first place we spent hours there.
Yeah, it was hidden in this random building in Chinatown up on the 8th floor. Like it almost looked like it was a warehouse kind of place where you would only go if you
Dingy trading
like a
center.
dingy, yeah, like you would only go if you had like wholesale business kind of place. But we found this place on the 8th floor, and then when you enter, it was like they were selling all these different types of teas, but you could actually sit down at a little table and you could have some tea and just hang out. And so we did that, and the woman that worked there was so friendly and was telling us all about tea and
Telling us about the history of pu'er tea.
yeah.
They're always surprised when I know anything about tea.
Yeah, you know a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, pu'er, lapsang souchong, all of that.
And it was beautifully decorated, and like it had kind of like this feng shui sort of feel.
These Chinese tea houses and bars and restaurants have a really good sense of decor. Not just putting shit on the walls, but like having
Everything
like
has
a
its
portal
place.
that you walk through
Yeah.
that makes it seem like like you walk in the door, you can't see everything. You have to kind of go around a wall. It kind of slows things down.
Yeah, like very relaxing, like, but it's like, even though there's a lot of little trinkets and things in these stores, it always feels very, like classy. It doesn't feel too cluttered, you know? Like everything, it's that very Chinese, like everything has its place, well thought out, well designed. So we went to this one on the 8th floor, and then today we went to another tea house, which again was beautiful, just the way that it was decorated. And we ended up buying quite a few packets of some tea. We got some, what kind of tea do we end up getting?
It was an oolong tea.
An oolong tea, yeah.
It's from Fujian province.
Yeah,
Like
so
one over from Guangdong in the south of China.
yeah, so we're excited to start drinking that every morning. So
Yeah.
it'll be really nice.
Yeah, so in case you forgot or in case we didn't mention, something like 65% of the population here speaks English. And it's the Chinese population, I think, speaks a little more English than the native Malay population does. So pretty much there's no like weird tension when we speak English. It's just kind of assumed that when you're in the city, every ethnic group talks to each other in English.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people will practice their English even within their own ethnic group. So a lot of people speak like 3 or 4 languages. And English is kind of the lingua franca of the city.
It's so amazing to be on this side of the world and just be able to communicate with people, because for 4.5 years in Korea, we really couldn't communicate that well. So to be over here and to be able to just speak normally and understand and read signs is just like, to me, mind blowing.
I got to say, going to the Chinese shop where we were looking at all the ink brushes and the scrolls and the materials you need to make calligraphy, and going to all the tea houses and talking to the people about tea and calligraphy and such, I was like, dude, we might be speaking English, but the more we do, the more I want to learn Mandarin. I just looking at like the beauty of the calligraphy, I was like, man, maybe. They say it takes 3 years to, usually, if you're committed, to memorize the basic 3,000 or so characters that you need before you even start learning to speak it.
It's quite a commitment.
So they do simplified Chinese here. Like when the communists took over in mainland China, they were like, we need to make a writing system that everyone can learn, not just scholars. So they simplified it, and they made all the characters a little easier, less detailed. Taiwan, they didn't do that. So in Taiwan, which was not communist, they kept it really classy and difficult to learn. And in Hong Kong, they did that too. So you get classic, difficult Chinese in Hong Kong and Taiwan. And the simplified Chinese was in mainland China and in Malaysia. So how about that? Maybe it's because they're a minority and there was no like Chinese like government authority saying we need to do it this way or that way, and the population might have been like, you know what, let's just do the easy way so that everyone learns it. I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but it would be easier to learn here than in Taiwan or Hong Kong, and maybe that's like dangling in the back of my mind to pick up some Mandarin. Maybe just the most useful characters, like the first 100 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, hey, you have your whole life. I mean, that could be a fun...
Do you want to learn Mandarin?
I'll learn a few phrases, perhaps, but I'm not committed to really learn for real. But maybe I'll learn some characters and a few phrases.
Yeah, they speak a lot of... Their dialect usually is Cantonese or Hokkien here. So Cantonese from Guangdong and Hokkien, that general area, or Hoklo from Fujian province, one over southern China. But oh man, no, it's a feast. I haven't even gotten into the fascinating history of this place, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
So speakeasies, tea shops, hidden passageways,
alleyways,
amazing
shiny skyscrapers. Oh, we went to Petronas Tower.
Oh yeah, the double tower that for like 5 years was the tallest buildings in the world. And we went up to the top, and we went to the bridge also that connects them. And they made Shamar put her tripod in a locker, and then we forgot to get it.
I lost my tripod.
So
That's okay.
Maybe they'll have it later, but I kind of now it's Eid. It's Eid al-Fitr. So there's the month of Ramadan fasting where you can't eat or I think eat or drink during the day, and
Which has been going on for the last month.
for the last month when we were in Bali. So
And here.
it was interrupting a lot of our dinner plans, which is fine, in the Gili Islands and here. But the end of Ramadan, you celebrate Eid al-Fitr. So that's the end of your feast.
Does that have starting tonight?
Tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight is Eid al-Fitr. And it's kind of like in
So it's a big deal.
in Christianity, there's the month of Lent where you fast, and then you have Easter. Here it's Ramadan, and then Eid al-Fitr. So lots of feasting, and it goes on for a few days. So lots of people visiting each other's homes, and lots of tasty food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's So that's kind of the city is a little shut down. I think more than
I think it
would
is
be,
because I know today we tried to go to one store and the lady said, "Oh, it's closed till next Tuesday or something." Till
What's
after.
weird is that they were Tamil. They're Indians.
Yeah.
So they weren't celebrating.
Oh,
They weren't celebrating Eid, but I think they did say like public holiday. Maybe that was an excuse because there's plenty of other businesses that were open, including the tea shop. So I don't know, but yeah,
So yes, we're wrapping it up here in Kuala Lumpur. This is our last night.
it's been a little less than a week.
Yeah, it's been maybe 5 or 6 nights.
Oh my God!
Yes.
Every day I'm like, I'm gonna eat less than the previous day, and then I'm like, wait, we haven't
gotta try
we
this.
haven't had dim sum yet. We have to have dim sum in the old Chinatown. So yeah, but
Yeah.
tomorrow I hope to go a little lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we're gonna take the bus, I think, down to Malacca,
Malacca.
which is about 2.5 hours south of Kuala Lumpur. It's on the water. It's a port city.
It's a choke point between Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula. It's like 40% of the world's trade goes through there, or some such enormous amount.
And I believe you were telling me it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe pretty walkable, I think I was reading.
Yeah, it was founded by a Hindu dude about 650 years ago, and fell under the control of a sultanate, Muslim, and then the Chinese set up an important depot there when they were trying to launch their Ming treasure ships to trade with all the locations along the Indian Ocean, and it soon became a thriving port and trade center with porcelain and silk from China and rice from Java and sandalwood and incense and all kinds of spices. Pretty soon the Portuguese muscled in, took over, and then the Dutch took over, and then the British took over, and then briefly during World War II the Japanese took over, and plenty of trauma and massacres, which I'll go into later.
Yeah, I'll do more later.
And then the British took it over again, and then it became independent. So it's had a very colorful history. But oh boy, the ghost stories that I have read about in Malacca, it's supposedly incredibly haunted.
Oh, you
And-
should tell me more about that
Yeah,
later.
well, it involves the Japanese. But I got to say, before we move on, that in Indonesia and Malaysia, they're both, it's a big part of their popular culture in both countries, to talk about ghost stories. Ghost stories and belief in the supernatural, not just religious supernatural, but like honest to God ghosts in both countries. Yeah, people will talk about, like, they'll even explore history, talking about, like, what is it? Is it the ghost of massacred communists? Is it the ghosts that were, like, massacred by the Japanese?
Well, and what
like,
were you
that's-
telling me today about, like, the hysteria with the dances or
call,
something?
yeah, they call Malaysia the mass hysteria capital of the world.
Wow.
It typically is so the Chinese population is mostly on the western side of the Malay Peninsula, south of Thailand, but the more conservative Islamic part of the country is along the east coast of the Malay Peninsula, and especially in the northeast, and that's where you have these really weird, random mass hysteria episodes where a lot of times it's overwhelmingly females and overwhelmingly young females. So girls going to Islamic schools. Some people theorize it's because of the stress and the superstition that they're soaking up. It's like a pressure cooker with a lot of religious imagery, and people will finally crack and it'll spread like a psychic virus amongst their classmates, and people will fall to the floor talking about gruesome, gory images and like dark, demonic imagery, and they often have to bring in like local witch doctors or Islamic healers, and it's a really common thing. I mean, not every day, but way more common than in other countries. And it often happens. They say it often happens around where there's graveyards and trees. And some people think that the palm oil plantations, which are replacing the forests where souls are supposed to be at rest, is disrupting where the souls are supposed to be.
Interesting.
And you get these freaky, massed, like shrieking people writhing, like dangerously contorting their bodies, talking about demons and just the most horrific shit you can imagine.
Wow, I gotta read up on that.
Oh, it's interesting.
Well, that's interesting because when we were looking down from the Petronas Towers, I was surprised because just down below there's this huge cemetery, which I didn't see it from down below, but up above I could see it. And I was curious about the story of that and how like these big skyscrapers are being built either right next to it or on it. I don't know, but I'm sure there's stories related to that.
Bad fucking medicine, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
Building it on a graveyard.
I don't know, but I'd be curious to read up on that a little bit.
Well, yeah, this part of the world, there's a lot. Remember, Indonesia too, but Malaysia probably a little bit more from what I've read. So we will explore Malacca.
Yeah.
Maybe do a little ghost tour and see what we can find. We're only going to be there for a few nights.
Yeah,
but
I think 3 nights. So have 2 full days, not too long.
But it's a compact, ancient, 650-year-old city.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can explore. But again, it's Eid al-Fitr, so that might disrupt things. I don't know what's going to be closed or open, or if it's going to be jam-packed with tourists visiting families or escaping the cities or spending their vacation days doing a little tourist jaunt. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
But anyway, I think that's good. Summary: delicious, delicious city. Absolute full platter, mental feast, full sensory immersion.
Yeah,
The smells, the sounds, the looks, how people talk, the different languages, the different way they dress, and how people
full spectrum,
just commingle, and the different architecture of the buildings and temples and mosques. God damn, I'm more than satisfied here. This is my happy place.
It's your happy place.
It's my happy place. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, this has been Friday, Eid al-Fitr, April 21st, 2023. And we are in the heart of beautiful Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
All right, until next time. Bye.
Bye.